Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, and we are going to talk about what it takes to be a mega intellectual property, a mega IP, right? And why Dungeons & Dragons deserves to be your primary game because of its position as emerging as actually as a mega IP, right? It's a mega IP. It is a mega IP that still has major goals to accomplish, and only by the tabletop role-playing game community making Dungeons & Dragons its primary game, its 51% game, and giving it more juice than they give to any other game on the market. That, why it's so important that you do that. Okay. So it was Halloween. I'm an evangelical Christian, so we don't celebrate Halloween. Halloween is a very invasive holiday for my family, and we have to escape our house, and it's very expensive. It continues to be more expensive every single year. It cost me $200 to escape this year, 2021. It cost $200 to escape Halloween, and it didn't even work. It never works. We always we left our house at 5:30, got back at our house 3 hours later at 8:30, and there were still people coming to doors. So we had to sit in our house with our phone lights on and all the lights in our house off. It's so incredibly invasive. I really dislike it. It's really frustrating. It was $100 to go out to eat, and we went to a bookstore and everybody bought a book, and that was $100. So it was incredibly expensive, and we get run out of our homes. I really dislike Halloween. All right, so, but I did have a nice night. It was nice. So I go to Barnes & Noble's, and, they have a nice area where you can sit down and look at some of the books. So I looked at Transformers, a Visual History. I highly recommend this book. It's $50. It's gigantic. It was amazing. And it told the story of Transformers, okay? And so it said the story of Transformers is the following. It's movies, it's shows, it's it's video games, movie shows, video games, in this order of importance. Movies, shows, video games, okay? And then comics and toys, okay? Now, what's left out of there? No novels. People do not care about novels today. Only very small, art house audience cares about novels anymore, right? But mainstream viewers, mainstream experiencers, they care about every other thing I just mentioned, right? And what it was saying was and the whole book was Transformers is important. It's a major thing. It's known worldwide. This is a real deal thing, right? And it's a mega IP, right? It didn't say mega IP, but it was just saying this is why Transformers matters. And I thought about this, right? And I was like, where does D&D fall? It has all of it. It's done every single thing, right? Movies. It has multiple movies already. It has a show. It had a major show, not just a show, but a Saturday morning 1980s cartoon show. That's a big deal, okay? It had movies, it had shows, it's had multiple video games. It's had comic books, and not even in the indies, real Marvel comics, there you can find Dungeons and Dragons, and toys, and not just regular toys, real deal toys, action figures. That's where it matters, right? That's the juice in the toy world. Dungeons and Dragons has it all, right? And one of the reasons why I'm so intense and adamant about Dungeons and Dragons being your primary game is I want it to live. And everybody's and no one worries about this. Everybody's oh, Dungeons and Dragons will be around forever. No, you're not paying attention, right? Harry Potter is dying right now, right? Because it didn't do the things that Dungeons and Dragons did, right? Harry Potter is on the ropes, man. That, nobody's talking about the sequels. They did that, Fantastic Beasts things. Nobody's talking about a sequel to that. A $250 million Harry Potter Legacy PS5 game just disappeared into the ether, right? And Harry Potter is disappearing quick. And so mega IPs can die. We need to remember this. HP, Harry Potter, is a cautionary tale of do not sleep on your mega IP, because you can lose it, right? And so it's really important to remember that. I really think, we need to protect Dungeons and Dragons from a death state, because that's exactly where Harry Potter is headed, right? So and if you look at Harry Potter, you could see where they failed, right? They had the movies, but they had no show. There was no Harry Potter television show. It just didn't happen, right? And that's important, okay? The other thing is, so they were missing the show part, and they were missing and then they did do video games, but I don't think they did a comic. There was never a Harry Potter comic book, right? And in addition to that, they never really did toys. Now, I know that you're going to come right back and say, Scott, they absolutely did do toys for Harry Potter, not action figures. Right? I really don't like, and I'm not talking about Funko Pops, right? But action figures, right? They're really important, and they're iconic, right? So the reality is, I think Harry Potter is on the ropes, fighting for its life to see if it will even survive as an IP at all, let alone continue to be a mega IP, right? I think it's already lost its status as a mega IP. I think it's only an intellectual property at this point, right? And I can't tell you how important this is. Like, it was huge. Harry Potter was huge, and it is like, you're checking its life pulse now. It's really a big deal. And the reason why was they just didn't follow the rules for mega IPs. If you're a mega IP, you have a movie, you have a show, you have a video game, you have multiples in these baskets, right? You have a movie, you have movies, you have shows, you have video games, you have comic books, not just one title, multiple titles, right? And you have action figures. It's just critical that you have across, and you can't skip them. You can't skip any of them now, right? If you don't have these, it means you are headed to irrelevancy. Dungeons & Dragons has them all, okay? And this is the other issue. Why does this matter? Why should you care about this to make Dungeons & Dragons your 51% game? Why not just play Shadowrun, right? Why not just play Jaroon, right? Why should you play or The Watch? Why should you skip these other games, right? At the macro level, you can play them, 49% or less, but you should never make them your primary game. Why is it important that you keep Dungeons & Dragons your primary game? The reason why is indie tabletop role-playing games, they impact people who play tabletop role-playing games, right? Who cares, right? Like, you're a TPRPG and you're impacting the TTPR community. Dungeons & Dragons has a radiance. It has an echo that goes way beyond the tabletop role-playing game community, because it has movies, because it has shows, because it has video games, because it has comic books, because it has toy lines. It creates a ton of jobs, right? Jaroon never made any jobs, right? And Shadowrun skipped some of those. They don't have all of those, right? And I think movies. There really was never a Shadowrun movie, right? It did most of the other ones, but you can't skip them. And if you're leaving them out, you're leaving out people who aren't in the tabletop role-playing game, and you're leaving jobs behind, and you're making it so you're not going to be mentioned in television shows, and your impact is shrunk down to just the TTBR community. Pay attention to tabletop role-playing games that impact lives beyond the tabletop role-playing game communities. That's the issue. And because Dungeons & Dragons is the number one instance of that, it has the ability to accomplish goals that no other game can accomplish, right? And Dungeons & Dragons specifically, because it is the progenitor of the entire of every, of the tabletop role-playing game element, right? It has the most powerful thing any tabletop role-playing game has, which is this idea, which is this carry forward mega principle, right? Mega element, which is unbound life. We live these unbound lives. Dungeon masters speak with 1,000 mouths, live with 1,000 hearts. Dungeon players speak with 100 mouths and live with 100 hearts. We don't live these small, shrunken, desiccated, bound lives. one heart, one mind, one spirit. We just don't. We have unbound life, and that did not exist before Gary Gygax. It really didn't. And this mega element, this element of Americana, unbound life, we're just getting started with it, right? The ramifications of it are massive, right? One of the biggest ones is people using it as therapy, right? Like they're like, this hasn't been authorized. Nobody said I can do it, but they're doing it. It's so clear. You can see it all over Twitter. Like people are like, I can't afford $200 a month, $200 a session for a psychologist, but I'm going to hack these goblins apart this Friday, and maybe that's going to give me some joy in life and help me understand why, something about myself, right? And of course more advanced and more voluminous games than that. But it's really important. Stay on Dungeons & Dragons. It's critical. It is critical. And, when we look at Dungeons & Dragons and we look at all these mega IPs, right, these mega intellectual properties, Dungeons & Dragons is getting it right, but we cannot take the foot off the gas pedal. We have to stay focused and continue to deliver good, useful things. All that's for the tabletop role-playing community and beyond. That's the important part. Shadowrun's never going to get that done. Jaroon is never going to get that done. All right? The Watch is never going to get that done. All right? So all that's my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What is your take on why mega IPs can die today? And if anything was going to take down Dungeons & Dragons, what would take down Dungeons & Dragons? And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider a like. And what do we need to guard against, right? That's the reason to point it out. So we want to make sure it doesn't happen. Love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.